We had been working on this CSR project since December 2013, in the comfort of our privileged lives. So the first thing we wanted to do upon our arrival, and even before visiting the Amani Home for street children, was to see for ourselves the places in which those children worked and the conditions they endured before being rescued from the streets.
Find some of the boys either engaged in some business, also maybe engaged in helping to carry, because this is the bus stand. So when the passengers get off the bus, they have some bags, they need someone to help them carry.
The Amani Home immediately felt like a loving and a better place for the kids to live in. We were now here to meet the caretakers and spend some quality time with the kids, something that we had been looking forward to since the beginning of our campaign.
Our CSR project's aim was to raise funds that would help the foundation build a facility in the nearby town of Arusha, where rescued children could be relocated temporarily before joining the Amani House in Moshi. To help the foundation achieve this, we raised a total 491,000 dirhams as a team during our fundraising campaign, really exceeding our initial target and allowing us to support the PCRF in Gaza and Syria.
The day started with an overview of the Foundation's mission, its history in Tanzania, and on its efforts and skills employed in rescuing kids from the streets.
It's also when Amani really became a professional organization, and we still kept the same spirit of really wanting to help these kids and showing them a lot of love and care so that they feel appreciated, start to feel positive about themselves again, be children again, because if you're on the street you're almost living like an adult, and to come up in life.
We actively discussed many aspects of the Foundation's program to understand how these kids are taken care of, and what type of education they are provided throughout their upbringing at the Amani's House for the Street Children.
What was also really impressive about the Foundation's work was the approach they use when it comes to reintegrating kids with their families. The program uses the support of the community around the child's family, so when a child is reintroduced to their home, the community is always vigilant, and it really just ensures that the child doesn't return to the streets after he rejoins his family.
Our first interaction with the kids was over lunch. We had rice, spinach, and beans stuffed with a banana for a good load of carbs, which we were anyways going to eat for an afternoon full of fun, playing with the children within the premises of the school.
There's one image I will never forget. It's that of a child who had made a mock-up of a smartphone with a piece of wood and had written the names of his friends on it. It was so motivating to see children who had absolutely nothing besides that place to be able to play, be creative and happy. I think so often we take so many things for granted in our lives. And this afternoon put things in perspective for me about really how big or small our own problems are.
There isn't really a definite answer as to why people climb a mountain for a cause. Instead of just, simply fundraising for one that they choose to support. Throughout our campaign, people kept asking us, why are you doing this? Why did you have to climb this mountain? It's a really tough physical undertaking, and there's a huge amount of risks. And I mean, we weren't sure what the right answer was either. Maybe that's why we were there, to find the answer.
As we left the school, there was a feeling of content amongst us towards what we had achieved throughout our campaign, and that of a huge respect and admiration towards the selflessness of the caretakers who had left everything behind to dedicate their lives to these kids.
Thanks so much. Most welcome. Yeah.
It was now time for us to continue our journey towards the second summit we pledged to climb for the children of the Amani House, Mount Kilimanjaro.
What is very unique about Mount Kilimanjaro is that while it stands at the equator, it also reaches an extremely high and challenging altitude. This implies that any of the climbing routes to the summit will take you through 4 different climatic zones. First, there's a tropical rainforest, then the alpine moorlands, followed by the alpine desert, and finally, the Arctic summit at the top. It's like walking from the equator to Antarctica in just 4 days, enduring all the different temperatures that range from warm to Arctic sub-zero.
Altitude 1400 meters where we are now, up to almost 6,000 meters. The World Health Organization suggests that you should take 14 days. You're going to do it in 4.5, in 3.5. So it's extremely important that you go very slowly. People ask, they say, well, if we're all sleeping at Mandara, we're all sleeping at 2,700 meters. What's the difference whether I'm there in 3 and someone's there in 7? A huge amount. The person in 7 has more chance of succeeding.
We started our first day with a final gear inspection. After that, we were introduced to our amazing guides and support crew, who by the end of this experience would become our best friends.
How are you? Good? My name is Jose. How are you name?
Josephat.
Jos? Josephat? So you're Jos, and I'm Jos. Same name. Jos fat. I'm Jos, not fat.
No one has any energy whatsoever. Close up.
We were so excited by the first day that it overshadowed any concerns we had towards altitude sickness, especially the fears stirred by dramatic stories we heard from climbers coming down from the mountain.
Pole, pole. Pole, pole.
As we pushed through the first bits of the trail cheering with our guides who were singing the Kilimanjaro song, we kept a slow pace set by Reggie, our chief guide, who was shouting out from ahead of the group, "Pole pole," which means slowly slowly in Swahili. As a matter of fact, this was our first mountaineering lesson. One of the secrets to summit success at high altitude is climbing at a very, very slow pace, allowing the human body to gradually adapt to altitude change along the way and acclimatize well. So pole pole, we made our way through the rainforest, across a trail cut through a lush and diverse vegetation that provided us with a partial cover from the afternoon showers. The first day was relatively the easiest for most of us, although we had gained some 900 meters of altitude upon reaching Mandara. It was also our first small accomplishment and a boost of confidence for the more complex days ahead.
Due to the remoteness of the territory we were crossing, there were times when we were completely disconnected from any form of technology, apart from taking pictures. In that environment, without any technology, we're able to connect with each other as real people, not hectic co-workers living, in an office doing business. In a way, that absence of comfort reminded us of the resilient street kids at Amani who, must have endured terrible and similar circumstances on the street, disconnected from basic needs, no first world gadgets. Suddenly climbing a mountain had some true meaning beyond just the symbolic. Mount Kilimanjaro is formed of 3 separate peaks: Kibu, Mwenzi, and Shira. Kibu being the highest freestanding peak in the world. The images of Kilimanjaro that people keep in their collective memory, and the ones that you see on postcards, are actually of Kibu, with Uhuru Peak reaching 5,895 meters. Yet even now, on our second day on the mountain, Kibu still remained unseen. The rainforest had started to unravel, and with the exception of a few resilient trees, it was clear that we were transitioning into a different landscape, an alpine moorland. For the very first time, this allowed us to see further and get a sense of the immense scale and challenge ahead of us.
As we got to Horombo, the sky cleared, and for the first time we managed to see Kibu's Peak with its glowing ice cap in the distance. By then, we had successfully seized our second day on the mountain, literally taking our bodies and morals above the clouds.
نحن هلا بأي نهار؟
ليك بيسكلي اليوم 3720 متر الحرارة برر وبيسكلي مبسوطين كتير عم نوجع شوي أكل كتير طيب عسلامتكم الشباب.
By some, the Marango route is considered as the easiest to the summit of Kibu. While this might be the case with respect to the steepness of the trail during the first 3 days, our bid to the summit was going to occur on the night of the 4th day. This schedule was going to grant us less acclimatization time on the mountain prior to our summit attempt, and could inflict on the team more chances of experiencing altitude sickness and therefore less chances of summit success.
So on day 3, and to further acclimatize ourselves, we had to reach a higher altitude but then return to sleep at a lower one at night. The plan was to leave Horombo on a return ticket. We climbed to the nearby zebra rocks to top our altitude gain by 400 meters and enjoy the landscape and its gorgeous black lava cliffs, streaked in white by mineral-rich rainwater.
While descending back to Horombo, all sorts of thoughts were rushing through my mind. I was there on the mountain for the kids, and like them, I felt reduced to my real self. No hierarchy, no pretenses, no wallets. Just myself and the will to continue this journey in spite of its difficulties. I couldn't imagine any other experience that could have brought us closer to each other and more appreciative of our lives, and above all, more aware of myself. It was so rewarding to be part of this.
Our guides called Kilimanjaro the Chameleon, mainly due to its swiftly changing weather conditions. So on day 4 we moved out of Horombo at around 8:30 AM, so 45 minutes into the ascent, and after crossing our last water point towards Saddle Plain between Mwenzi and Kibo, this thick fog invaded us. Next thing, we were caught in a blizzard. We pushed for Kibo through the alpine desert with minimal visibility and through what we thought would be the snowstorm that would attempt to ruin our summit attempt that night.
The saddle wasn't necessarily a difficult terrain to cross, but at 4,700 meters, our lungs felt porous. Comparing to sea level, the same percentage of oxygen molecules are present in air at this altitude. But at now 4,700 meters, air is much thinner, and even at a pole-pole pace to compensate, you feel the urge to breathe faster.
I think what kept us going on day 4 was our coherence. Not in keeping a tight walking line, but by keeping an eye on one another all the way through those conditions, and by constantly reminding each other not to listen to our minds. We kept pushing for Kibo, and were soon there, longing to indulge in a humble 3 hours sleep before waking up to our big summit bid.
We were up at 11 p.m., and there was word of a weather window across the camp, which was validated by Reggie and the early departure of other climbers. In mountaineering, there are many theories as to why a summit push is attempted during nighttime. Yet, surprisingly, the reason most agreed upon is safety. See, it takes around 8 hours to reach Uhuru Peak from Kibo Camp, through an extremely steep route and at sub-zero conditions that would freeze your most carefully tucked and insulated water bottle. By the time you reach summit, your utterly exhausted body is distracted by the euphoria of success. It is only upon starting the descent that you become aware of it, so it makes more sense to descend during daytime.
When we were about halfway into the ascent, I looked up at the clear night sky, and what looked like stars actually turned out to be lights from the headlamps of the other groups that started the climb before us from Kibo Camp. That's how high and steep the mountain was, and the altitude was playing tricks on our brains. That's when I realized that up there, you are not in charge. You are not in charge. One thing for sure was that we weren't there to conquer the mountain or challenge nature. We were there to conquer ourselves. Beyond this point, there are no words to describe how fulfilling this experience was.